The final recipient this year, Mohammed Mhawish, couldn't be here. And some of the reasons for that we talked about at the very outset is that press freedoms are very much under assault. Our civil liberties are under assault. And the most vulnerable in our communities are usually the first to experience that. So we have a special video that Mohammed pre-recorded that we're going to share with you momentarily. I'm going to introduce to you our last independent media luminary and media scholar to come up here and properly introduce Mohammed's work. I.F. Stone once wrote that if the government makes a mistake, the newspapers will find out and the problem may then be fixed. But if freedom of the press were lost, the country would soon go to pieces. Well, whether it's East Palestine, or maybe it's not just this country falling to pieces, it's other countries and other parts of the world that fall to pieces. And it's the independent press and the independent media that really, in the words of George Seldes, tell us what's really going on, right? It's not about objective journalism and both sidesing things. It's about telling the public what's going on. And this is exactly the kind of reporting that you're going to see if you read the work of Mohammed Mhawish. You're going to see what's going on that the corporate media in this country has been pretending it hasn't been going on for a long, long time. Our final presenter this evening is Robin Anderson. Robin is an award-winning author and professor emerita of communications and media studies at Fordham University. She edits the Routledge Focus book series on media and humanitarian action. Her latest books include Investigating Death in Paradise, Finding New Meaning in the BBC Mystery Series, and she co-edited with Steve Masick and Nolan Higdon, Censorship, Digital Media, and the Global Crackdown on Freedom of Expression from Peter Lang, which is a monumental read. I strongly recommend it. Robin regularly writes for Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting and has contributed numerous news abuse chapters to us here at Project Censored for our annual book. Robin is a Project Censored judge, and this year she joined the panel of esteemed judges for the Izzy Award. Please welcome Robin Anderson.
I think we probably all realize why Mohammed Mhawish can't be here with us tonight. But I will let you know as I continue with my introduction why he can't. Mohammed Mhawish was reporting from the most dangerous place on earth for journalists, in the history of journalists, in the history of the world. Just within the first month after October 7th, more journalists had been killed in Gaza than at any time since the Committee to Protect Journalists had been counting when it was established in 1992. Recently, the Palestinian Journalism Syndicate put the staggering toll of journalists and media workers killed in Gaza at more than 200. Those who remain there risk their lives on a daily basis to document what their people are going through, what they go through, and they bear witness to the devastating conditions they are currently experiencing. Mohammed Mhawish was born and raised in Gaza, and he reported on the ground from Gaza for the years leading up to the war and then after October 7th. Mohammed is a journalist, storyteller, and now displaced Palestinian, who wrote numerous firsthand accounts from the front lines of the conflict about his lived experience of Israel's genocidal violence and the terror that it takes on the people and him personally. As a storyteller, he writes about people, their resistance and beauty, and as they live in his memory. For example, in this segment, he writes, "You never liked to sit still. You were always moving, always making something out of nothing. You stitched dresses with thread from market stall. You turned old books into new stories for children who had none. You carved names into the backs of school desks, pressed the ink of poetry into walls." In his latest Substack article, Mohammed wrote, I covered the first phase of this war from the ground before I fled Gaza for my family's and my safety. Now reporting from Cairo as airstrikes continue to fall with unimaginable intensity. I see that for those on the ground, there is no safety or calm. Only the certainty that every lull is merely the prelude to even more destruction. And as Max pointed out, just like the people of East Palestine, the people of Gaza have done nothing that in our possible imaginations we could conjure to justify in any way the horrors and the catastrophic conditions under which they live at this moment when they have no food, water, starvations, no food, water, or medical care, and are currently starving. And like Alex Kane pointed out, it's the weaponization of anti-Semitism and the repression of freedom of expression that prevents us today from speaking up and standing out, at least they're trying to, prevent us from speaking up and standing up for the people, our brothers and sisters, our Muslim brothers and sisters in Gaza. I'll just add that in addition to being a contributed writer to The Nation, he also sends dispatches to other outlets such as Plus 972 Magazine, Al Jazeera, and The Economist, and he appears also on MSNBC. He also contributed to the book A Land with a People. Tonight he will be with us on videotape. Thank you.
Hello everyone, it's an incredible honor to be with you today. My name is Mohammed Mhawish and I'm a Palestinian journalist and writer from Gaza, currently reporting from exile. This recognition comes at a moment when the stakes could not be higher, when we are witnessing not only the erosion of journalists' protection in Gaza, but the deliberate silencing of an entire people's right to speak for themselves. For me, this award isn't just about my individual work, it's an acknowledgement of something much bigger. The urgent responsibility to keep telling those stories, especially now when every effort is being made to bury them. Most of the reporting that brought me here was done while I was still living and reporting from Gaza. Gaza is often spoken about in statistics, number of casualties, number of bombings, number of aid trucks. But for me, Gaza is home. It's a place where life is lived fully, even under siege, even under the worst conditions imaginable. And it's a place where journalism has never been a simple career choice. It is survival. It is an insistence on living and hope. When I first started reporting, I never imagined I would one day be writing in the middle of airstrikes, or that I would be filing stories from temporary shelters with no electricity, no internet, and no certainty that I would live to see the next morning. But that became the reality for me and for so many of my colleagues in Gaza. Every story we publish feels like a small act of defiance, a way of saying we are still here and our voices still matter. Over the past year and a half, the conditions for local journalists in Gaza have become even more dangerous and deadly. The numbers are staggering, the deadliest period for journalists anywhere in the world in recent memory. But behind every number is a person, a friend, a colleague, a human being with dreams, families, and futures that have been stolen. When I think about the friends and fellow journalists we've lost, it becomes clear to me that journalism isn't just about telling the story of survival. It is itself a form of survival. It is a lifeline to the outside world. And when that lifeline is targeted, when the journalists themselves become the targets, it sends a terrifying message that those in power not only want to control the narrative, but they want to erase it altogether. When people ask me how we manage to keep reporting under such brutal conditions, my answer is always the same: because we have no choice. because telling our own stories is the only form of agency we have left. Because if we don't tell them, someone else will, and too often those versions are distorted, incomplete, or stripped of our humanity. Being a Palestinian journalist means carrying not only the weight of truth telling, but the weight of constant misrepresentation. It means pushing back against decades of being spoken about instead of being listened to. It means insisting on our right to narrate our own lives, even when the world seems more comfortable turning away. This award and the recognition it brings isn't just for me. It is for every journalist who stayed behind to document the destruction of our own communities, for those who gave their lives holding a camera, a notebook, or a microphone. It is also for my people, the Palestinian people themselves, who continue to insist on their humanity in a world that too often treats them as disposable. I want to thank the Park Center for Independent Media for this recognition. Thank you for believing that independent journalism still matters, not just when it's easy, but when it's hardest. Not just when it confirms that we want to believe, but when it challenges us to see the uncomfortable truths that we might rather ignore. I also want to thank my family, especially my parents, who gave me the strength to keep going even when everything around us was collapsing. And I want to thank my fellow journalists in Gaza, both those still standing and those who are no longer with us. Their courage isn't just history, it is happening right now as we speak. I want to sincerely thank the Park Center for Independent Media for this tremendous honor and the judges who believed in the importance of this work. Thank you to everyone who made the Izzy Award possible and who continue to stand behind the values of independent journalism, not just in words, but in action. This recognition means more than I can express, especially at a time when truth-telling is under such grave assault. It is a reminder that even when the world feels indifferent or hostile, there are people who see and who listen and who care. Thank you for seeing us and for believing in the power of stories to break silences and build understanding. As I accept this award, I do so with a heavy heart, but also with determination that the work is far from over, that the stories must keep being told, that truth must keep being documented, and we must never allow silence to take hold. To the people of Gaza, your voices will not be silenced. Your lives will not be forgotten, and your stories will continue to be written and to be heard and to be honored. Thank you.